All right, hi there. In this video, we're going to do a refresher on research in Lexis. We're going to use the same hypothetical that we did for Westlaw. You might want to pull, or I suggest you pull out the handout that's provided to you. The research process is exactly the same. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing Westlaw, Lexis, or even print research, you see, or you will want to do the same 7 steps that we have previously talked about. And also, you should think topically about your problem. Now, let's dive in to page 2 and locate secondary sources. And you can do that with a statute. It's very easy. Type in the site that you are looking for or that you're interested in, and it'll give you the statute. And before we get too far, what I want to do is explain to you how a statute is divided or subdivided. So when Congress passes a law, Congress will put that law in a particular title. So it arranges the law by categories, and those categories are assigned to different titles. So if we scroll here, right under heading, we see that this statute is included in Title 18. Title 18 in the United States Code is related to crimes and criminal procedure. So this helps us to, in terms of understanding that we're in the right place because we know our statute deals with a crime. So if we were, for example, in a different title, maybe Title 25, we would know that we're not in the right place. Also, titles are long, so they get subdivided. And it's divided into parts first. So part 1 related to crimes, which are chapters 1 through 123, and then they get divided into chapters. And so our section 201 is covered in chapter 11. And we can open up chapter 11 and see what all is encompassed in chapter 11. And here we see chapter 11 includes our section, bribery of public officials, but also definitions. This could be very important for us. So look at what chapter your section is included in, because that might be, you might find other additional statutes that are relevant. You can find the same information on Westlaw and even in the books. Also, table of contents, if you open that up, that gives us the table of contents for the entirety of chapter 11. So like I said, there might be additional sections relevant to your problem. Okay, now though, we're looking for secondary sources. We're going to find those in other citing sources. So I'm going to open that up. There are almost 4,000, as you see, so too many. And we're going to narrow by content. So I open the content. The first thing I'm going to look at are treatises. There's 205, still too many. So we can narrow that down by using the narrow by function. And I'm going to put in 201 subsection B because I'm only interested in 201 subsection B, not all of the various subsections of 201. And then you hit your enter and it runs the search in treatises, but now I'm just looking for subsection 201 and it dropped it down to 34, much more manageable. And you just scroll through and find things that are interesting. If you need to, you can even narrow even further. But as we scroll through, I want to show you a couple things. When we hit number 8, this looks promising, bribery of public officials, but pay attention to the resource. This source is 8th Circuit Criminal Handbook. So not helpful for us because our problem is in the 5th Circuit, so we can move on. Same thing with 9, but 9 relates to the 11th Circuit Criminal Handbook. But if we keep moving through, we might find a criminal handbook related to the 5th Circuit. And that would be something to look at. There could be other things to look at as well, but I'm going to take this treatises off and look for law reviews. That's the next step. And it'll take a moment. Lexis tends to be slow right now for some reason. So just bear with me for a moment here. And what we're going to do is open up content and then select the resource of law reviews, if it ever will let us. All right, so hope everybody's doing well. And sorry, this is taking a while. This is actually taking um, too much time, but we will. There we go. All right, so go back to content type. We want to open up law reviews. So now it's going to search 201B in law reviews, and I'm down to 336. I can also narrow by, like we did with in Westlaw, public officials within 15 of BRIB exclamation point. Remember, the exclamation point is a root expander. And I didn't put quotations around public officials because because Lexis will recognize this as one term, not two. And then hit enter or the search icon. We were at 336. Now we'll see where we're at. Dropped it to 237. So we could continue to just look through to see if there's anything helpful. Like some of these dealing with wire fraud, that's not going to be helpful. Maybe public corruption. Or maybe we need to narrow by changing this one. Maybe 15 is too many words. Let's drop it to 8 and then hit OK. So what I did was I went to that search term and I selected the pencil to edit. And yeah, it didn't really drop us by too much. So we're just going to have to go through and see if any of these are going to be helpful. And always remember, your best results may not be on the first page, that it may be further on down. But there are some I'm seeing that relate to public officials and bribery. Number 14, American Criminal Law Review, as just an example, might be one that we'd want to look for. We may even want to limit the search again, maybe down to 5, to see if we can narrow this even further. I was just going to see what's on the next page, if there's anything that could be more helpful for us. Lot of articles on public corruption. Okay, so that's how you're going to find secondary sources, by using the other citing sources button. Next, we're going to look at the same thing, but for a case. So I should have had a tab open, so sorry about this. I'm going to open up another tab and we're going to look at that case that we have. So I type in the site, hit enter. I'm going to do the same thing for secondary sources. So that means I need to go to other citing sources. This one, there's only 19. So I may not even, with this few, and then open up content. There's only three treatises. I don't even need to do a narrow by. Already can look at these tax consequences, not helpful. Statutory terms might be helpful. So I can easily, um, without even doing anything, know I only have one to look at on treatises. But let's see what we're dealing with. Law reviews, there's seven. I can look through that really quickly as well. But if I need to, I could do the same narrow by if there's a lot more there. Um, so that's how to get to secondary sources, either statutes or cases you're using other citing sources. Let's go back to the statute because now we're under part two on page, I'm sorry, I don't know what page it is. Um, I'll tell you. Let me pull it out. So now we're going to look for locating other cases. So part two on the bottom of page two. So I'm back to the statute and we're going to click citing decisions to find cases. Makes sense, right? Decisions are cases. So select citing decisions. And there's a lot of them, 3,200. So I want to find Fifth Circuit because that's my jurisdiction. I can either use the chart or the graph, or I can narrow over here. This tells me Fifth Circuit has over 244. The graph is kind of nice here because if you follow the color scheme, it tells me are there positive cases, neutral cases, or sided by cases? And it even will tell me if there's negative treatment cases in that jurisdiction. How do I do it for multiple jurisdictions, though? For example, you might want to do United States Supreme Court and Fifth Circuit. So you have to select multiple first. So select multiple, then click US Supreme Court and Fifth Circuit. Now click OK. And it gets me should have narrowed it down. Yeah, to total of like there it is, 348. And now I can do a search term if I wanted to. I can narrow by, let's do that, public official within 15, bribe, exclamation point, BRIB, exclamation point, if you can't see that. Took us down to 164. Maybe I also want to do that 201 subsection B. Let's see if that narrows it even further. 224. I could just look at the Fifth Circuit cases to start with and see what Fifth Circuit cases are citing Supreme Court cases. That might be a way to make sure that I'm including the Supreme Court cases. But that's how you would get through to find cases that cite the statute. You can also, or you would also want to do the same with citing cases that cite when you have a case. So, oh, I lost my Critchman there. I guess I can pull it back up real quick. And again, we're going to use the tab at the top, this time citing decisions. There's only 29, so I can get through this one pretty quick. And look at the graph here for Fifth Circuit. I have a couple cases. I have one case cited by, and then two cases that are caution. So I can click the bar, and now I'm just in the Fifth Circuit, and it tells me Baymon distinguishes Critchman And Thomas distinguishes Crichman, and Merrill cites it. And it tells me where in the case. So I click this, it'll take me right to that part of the decision that is distinguishing Crichman. So remember, just because it's yellow, just because it distinguishes Crichman does not mean I cannot use Bayman. Maybe Baymon and maybe Thomas are still good cases for me. I have to read these cases to find out. Same thing with red. If you get a red stop sign, doesn't mean off limits. It could be, but it means you need to investigate it some more. So that's how to find cases very quickly. I'm going to go back to the document because another way to find cases is by head notes. So this is the very bottom of page 2. So I can go over here and scroll down to the part of the case dealing with head notes. And if I scroll to the part dealing with bribery, here it is. Head note 3, it tells me I can narrow by this head note. All right. So I just click that and it says there's 7 cases that have cited Crichman for head note 7, but these are cases from all jurisdictions. So then I could narrow by the Fifth Circuit, and there's that Thomas case. So Thomas is directly dealing with head note 3, which is dealing with bribery. So we have to read Thomas. Another thing to do with your head notes is to do the more like this head note. So I'm going back to the document, back to head notes, back to head note 3 because that deals with bribery. Remember, there could be more than one head note that's relevant. Look at any that are relevant. After the language of the head note, there's this link more like this head note. I can click that. It'll run a search, kind of like the key number for Westlaw, but I don't think it's as effective because look, it gives me Crichman. Well, I already have it. And it only gives me one other case, but this one is a state court opinion, Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, not even relevant. So this didn't get me anywhere, at least with this particular case. Not to say that this won't be helpful in other situations, could be, but for this particular problem wasn't nearly as helpful as Keysight on Westlaw. Now turn the page for 3. We need to verify that the law is good that we are using. So, and that's with Shepard's on Lexis. That's the case for both statutes and case law. So I'm going to go back to the statute, and I'm going back to the document by just tabbing, using the tab at the top. And it'll give me the quick Shepard's snapshot at the top. This one gives me a plus, a green plus, tells me it has positive treatment. So that's good. It's a good case. I mean, good. It's a good statute. Then I come over here on the right-hand panel, gives me the Shepard's report. If this is not open on your screen because your screen's too small, hit the info button on the right-hand side, and then Shepard's will open up. And it tells me that there are positive cases, neutral cases, and most cases just cited. So this is a good statute. There's no case that has overturned or ruled that any part of the statute is unconstitutional. Let's go to the case. For some reason, it keeps logging me out of the case. So it already has my search term there when I right click it. Okay, here we go. Crichman. Crichman has yellow triangle, which says there's negative treatment associated with it. Well, how do I know why or How can I quickly know why it's negative? Go back to the Shepherd's report on the right-hand side of your screen. If it's not there, hit the info button. You'll see a small box that has info and notes. Just click info and then this box will pop open. It says there's 5 cases that for caution. So 5 cases that negatively treat it, either criticize it or distinguish it in some way. So I can open up caution by clicking it. And then if there are a lot of them, I can go over to court, narrow by fifth. Sorry, I should have hit the plus sign. Narrow by Fifth Circuit. And there are the 2 cases, Baymon and Thomas, that we've already seen. And then if I go into Thomas, I can do the same thing. Thomas also has a yellow triangle. So Thomas has negative treatment associated with it. And if I go to the Shepherd's report over here, it tells me that 1 case has given it a caution. So if I click that, it's this case of Cheek versus Nueces County, Texas. But that case is United States District Court Lexis site, which means it's an unpublished decision, which also means, also means United States District Court. That's a lower court opinion. That's a trial court opinion. So it is not binding for 2 reasons. It's unpublished and it's a trial court opinion, whereas Thomas is a circuit court opinion. I know that because Thomas is reported in federal third, F third. So that automatically tells me it's a circuit court opinion. But it'd be important to know why this cheat court has distinguished it, because it might be relevant to my case, either for an argument that I might want to think about making or an argument that my opponent might make. Excuse me. All right. And then finally, prior or subsequent history. I'm going to stick with Thomas since I'm here. Go to the history tab. And it gives you this nice graph. So there is subsequent history for Thomas. Thomas, somebody appealed it to the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court, the first thing that you do is write a writ of certiorari, which is you petition the court and the court denied it. It tells me denied. If the Court of Appeals had reversed and remanded back to the lower court, there would be another row here for federal trial court. And you would see then A would go to B. And then I could read what the case did at the trial court level on remand. All right. So history, don't forget about history so you can review prior and subsequent history of a particular case. All right, so that's it for, no, sorry, one more thing for Lexis. Search by topic, that's on your back page. So how can we search by topic? I'm going to go back to the main screen and you can search by looking in practice area or topics. That's why knowing what your topic area is so important. So here we're dealing with criminal law, as you remember. So we should see, do we have anything that is related to criminal law? And if we go to practice areas, we will see criminal law and procedure. I can open that up and I want to go to secondary sources because those are always the better place to start. And when I go to secondary source, I can do criminal law secondary materials by topic. So I'm going to look in there and here's all the various things that are related topically to criminal law and criminal procedure. And I'm just scanning through to see if anything is relevant. For example, here is a handbook right on Fifth Circuit Criminal Handbook. So this is written by practitioners for practitioners in the Fifth Circuit related to criminal law. I would want to read this. And here I could do then if I don't see bribery in the table of contents here, I could do a quick search for bribery. It'll tell me where that's discussed. All right, I'm going to go back. Um, just give you an example. If I'm dealing with an entrapment defense, here's an entire handbook or treatise just related to entrapment, probably very effective, and I would want to read that. And I didn't even do a search to pop that up. All right. Or I could do a search of all treatises, guides by opening this up. So it's already going to just focus in on these specialty materials related to crime. And then from here, I could do my query, such as we've been doing. And then I might even have to narrow further because I could end up with a lot of results. 216. So let's narrow by jurisdiction. For example, I don't care about state law because this is a federal statute. So I'm going to narrow by that. And that took me down to 87. Um, Much more manageable. I could even do search within results. I could do that section 201B that we're interested in, hit enter. That dropped me all the way down to 14. There's that Fifth Circuit Criminal Handbook that we saw a moment ago. And there might be a couple other sites here, I mean, secondary sources that might be relevant. So I can also search topically, and sometimes topically is a efficient way to find resources. Okay, so that is a refresher on Lexis. Thank you very much.